We'll start in 4 more minutes. Okay, hello everyone. My name is Ateeb, and in this session, I plan to revise a pseudocode syntax and uh, do a few questions at the end. Pseudocode is a major part of your paper 2, which I believe is on Wednesday. So we're gonna do a bunch of 12, 13 marker questions from past papers, and we're gonna revise pseudocode. So the most basic thing regarding pseudocode is data types. Now, this session's intended as a revision, not if you're learning from scratch. So I'm assuming that you already know the basics, but we're gonna go over them again. So there's a bunch of data types, right? So there's a bunch of them. You have integers, you have reals, you have strings, chars, and you have date, and you have boolean. These are the oh, and you have boolean. These are the 6 main data types in our syllabus. Now, discussing each one in detail, let's just give it like 2 minutes. So integers are any whole numbers. So for instance, 1, -1, 80, 67, and so on. Reals are decimals, so 1.03, negative 2.01, 3.09, and so on. Strings are a combination of characters, and we denote them using double quotation marks, as you can see. So for instance, a string could be Ateeb Sohail, right? So that's a combination of bunch of characters. So, or you can say a combination of bunch of alphanumeric characters. Char is a single character. So for instance, A, B, it can be lowercase as well, C, and so on. Date is kind of like, well, it's basically the date, right? So I'm going to show you guys how date works according to our syllabus as well. You're supposed to use the insert that you're given, and then you have Boolean, which is always true or false. Um, these are the basic data types. The next thing that you need to know are identifiers. Identifiers are variables in pseudocode. Imagine that you have a kind of bucket, okay? Uh, just a sec, let this open. Okay. Imagine that you have this kind of bucket, and you can put stuff in this bucket. So in our case, this bucket is our variable, and I can put like a string in here. I can put a bunch of an integer in here. I can put an array in here. That's basically what a variable it is. It stores some value, right? So for instance, it could store the number 3, it could store the character A, it could store a string, and so on. So in pseudocode, when we want to assign a value to an identifier or a variable, we say variable name, arrow, value. Okay, pretty simple. Then we need to learn about declaration. Now, this bucket that we have, pseudocode is really picky and it has OCD and it wants to know what kind of data is stored in this bucket. So we have to tell it that, oh, only an integer can be stored in this bucket, or oh, only a boolean can be stored in this bucket. So the syntax for that is declare variable name colon data type. Now, there are obviously these data types, right? There's obviously the ones that we covered before. However, when we're talking about records, right, which we will in a while, this could be a string, this could be an integer, this could be a char, right, and so on. But it could also be a record. And what exactly is a record? Okay, type. So imagine that you have a bunch of kids, okay? You have a bunch of kids in a class, and each one of them have an individual name, age, you can say name, age, height, grade, and so on, right? Now, obviously, if you're gonna sort them out one by one and you want to make like variables out of it, so you'd say that student one name is equal to Deep Hill, student one grade age is equal to 17, student one height is equal to 176, and student one grade is equal to like C, right? So you have this will get very messy overall. Okay, and when you're converting this into an array, it's gonna get even messier. So what we do is that we use something we call record, right? Now records are basically you can say the object-oriented programming of pseudocode, something like that. So instead of having separate values for each one of the values, what you can do instead, you can say that I have a type student, and let's do this with an n type, and you can say that declare name as a string, declare oops declare age as an integer, declare grade as a char, and whatever value that you want, right? You can say declare attendance equal to boolean, and so on, right? So now when you have a student, right, let's just say that we have a student, right? So I can say student is a type of student, right? So student. Now that I have a student, I could just be like, oh, student's age can be from student.age, or student's grade can be student.grade, right? So I can say student.grade is equal to C. This is much more effective than us writing down a single variable for every single one of the kids. That's going to get very repetitive, right? So instead of that, we can just make a single student variable and then assign grades like this, right? And obviously we can put them in an array as well. So we can say that students is an array, and we can put a bunch of students in there, right? Instead of going like student one name, student one age, and so on, we can just be like student one, student two, student three. It makes it a whole lot easier for us. Then there are constants. Now, variables, they take variable values. You can change them. So if I have a variable like where x, and I set this as 2, I can change this later in the code to 3, right? Because it's a variable. I can change it. However, if you have a variable that should not change its value throughout the code, then you use something called constant. Now, an example of this is, for instance, a mathematical value, like for instance pi, right? So you can say that pi is 3.14, and obviously while you're writing the code, pi won't magically change its value out of the blue. So we can say that it's a constant, right? So we say constant pi is equal to 3.14. Okay. We have the concept of arrays. So again, for to understand an array, you can think of it as like you have this desk and it has a bunch of buckets on it, right, with a bunch of variables in it, and each one of those buckets has an assigned ID, which can start from 0 or from 1 depending on how you declare the array. So for instance, you have this table and you have like let's just say 9 characters in the array, right? And it's basically a bunch of buckets on a table or a bunch of variables inside of a collection. Okay, and each one of them will have a different unique ID. So for instance, this could be the first, this could be the second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. In terms of code, it kind of looks something like this, where you have an array like this, right? And obviously each one of these values can be accessed by their respective index, which is basically this ID, right, that increases in order as you go down the array. Now, in order to declare an array, what we do is we say declare array name array x to y of type. Now, x to y, basically what x refers to is the starting index. So if I say I want to start I want to start the initial index from 1, I would say that x is equal to 1. So I could say that declare R is an array from 1, right? And the y is the length of the array. So if I have like 9 buckets, I would say it's 1 through 9. And then if they're of integer, I would do of integer. If they're of char, I would do of char. So this basically gives us an empty array which has 9 different slots that I can fill in anytime using array at whatever index and then giving it a value. So for instance, array at 2 is going to be 64, right? So that's how you access and you add to an array. But within the code itself, char type uses a single while string uses double. Whenever you're working with single characters, it's better to use single quotation marks. So like I used here, it's better to use single quotation marks, and with a string, you should use double quotation marks. Okay. Now, every single code needs a sort of input or output. Okay, something that you take in from the user and something that you output to the user. I'm gonna open up Pseudocode Pro's website for this one to give you guys a. Also, that is a really good resource for you to use. I'll send it afterwards as well. But basically, what happens is you have a terminal. Now, if you have a function that requires input from the user, let's just say that you have an age function that needs the user's age and then calculate some value based on, you can take the user's age as an input. Okay, so what this would do is that it would take the variable, whatever input it is from the terminal, and put that into age. And similarly, if you want to output something to the terminal, you would use output. Pretty simple. Then you have the basic arithmetic operations for numbers. You have plus, minus, divide, and you have multiply, which is by an asterisk. And then you have the logical operators, which are greater than, less than, oops, less than, greater than, you have greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, you have not equal to, and you have equal to. We're going to go over these when we start writing the code, but these are pretty simple. Now, a major part of your syllabus will be from the insert. So I'm just going to pull up the insert real quick. Just give me a second. Okay. All right. Okay. So you have a bunch of string functions, you have a bunch of numeric functions, you have a bunch of date functions, and you have a bunch of operators, right? So the only thing that you need to know about the insert is that these are a bunch of functions and they return values, right? It's not that complicated. If you want to somehow get the leftmost value in a string, you use the left thing, and it even tells you that, it even gives you an example. So whenever you're going to be writing code and you realize that, oh, you need a specific part of a string, or you need like an ASCII value, or you need like a random number, so on and so forth, you can just refer to the insert. Okay, it's gonna be the most valuable thing that you have. And at the start of this session, I told you guys that there is a weird way to make a date. So basically, how you do that is that, for instance, if you want to make a date variable, let me open up the notes. If you want to make a date variable, you would first declare the variable, right? So you could say declare date today as date. Now, if you look at the insert here, you're going to see that there is a set date function over here that takes in the day, month, and year, which are all integers, and it returns the date variable. So you can't just say that, oh, date today is 19/02/32 or whatever. You gotta do date today is set date, and then you put in the day. So for instance, it's 11 May 2026, right? That's how you're gonna do that. And if you wanna access the day, so if you wanna access like the day, so you wanna access 11, you could do uh day is equal to, again referring to the insert, you're gonna see that it takes in the day, the date as this date, so you could just do day date today, and so on, right? So that's how you want to deal with dates. And, and most of the insert is going to have everything that you need in regards to string handling and numeric functions. And we're going to use the insert. I'll show you guys when we attempt the past papers. Okay. Now, the next thing is selections. So you have two types of selection statements. Okay. Selection statements basically based on your condition do a certain output. So you have if, then else statement. So if condition, then execute, else execute something else. So if I want to take in the best example of this I can give you is that I want to make a program that sees if student passes or fails. So I'm going to take in their mark, and then I'm going to see if marks is less than or equal to 50, then I'm going to output that he failed, right? Output fail. I'm going to output that he passed. There's also, you can also make this for multiple statements. So for instance, if I wanted to give each student a grade, I could be like, else if marks is greater than or equal to greater than 50 and less than equal to, and marks less than equal to 60, then output D. I'm gonna, for simplification, I'm just gonna add 2 grades, else output A. Now, obviously, you can understand that as this goes on, it can get very, very long. So you can have if statements upon if statements upon if statements inside of it, and it's gonna get very nested. Okay, it's gonna get very nested. By the way, an if statement inside of another if statement is called a nested if statement. Same goes for loops. A loop inside of a loop is gonna be a nested loop. So the alternative for this is going to be case off. Now, in conditions, in an if-else statement, you mostly have two conditions that you're going to compare, two variables that you're going to compare. But if you have only one variable that you want to compare to a bunch of different values, like we had marks, right? We had marks and we wanted to compare them. Or if you have, let's just say that you have a number from 1 through 10 and you want to compare it through each one of them, right? So let's just say that you want to input then 6 is D, 7 is C, 8 is B, 9 is A, and 10 is A star, right? So what you could do is that you could do case of grade, and then you can add each one of these separate possibilities, right? So you can say that 10, for 10, we're going to output A star, and for 9 and so on. So 9, 8, 7, 6. Okay, let's just do this. So we're gonna output 6 for D for 6, C for 7, B for 8, and A for 9. Now, obviously, it's gonna get very repetitive to do it for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, especially if it's the same thing. So what we can do is we can use otherwise output F, right? Because 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, all of those are failed values. Okay, so if you get anything below a 5, you're gonna fail, and then you gotta do end case. So the syntax for case of would be case of variable, value 1, execution, right? And then value 2, execution. And then otherwise, if none of the values are true, we're gonna execute something else. Okay. Right? So you can add your piece of code, you can take it to the other line as well. That's not a problem. It doesn't matter. Then you have your loops. In our syllabus, we have 3 kinds of loops. Okay. We have a count control loop, which is going to be a for loop. So the way a for loop works is that it's going to take a number. Okay, where is, oh, why is this so laggy? Okay. The hello. Uh, the fuck? Oh, there we go. Anyways, my bad. So let me just pull up the drawing. Okay, I don't think it wants to pull up. God damn, what is wrong with this, bro? Okay, the way that a for loop works is that it takes a starting number, it takes an ending number, and then it goes through each one of those iterations. So if you have a for loop that runs from say 1 through 10, that's going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and each time the loop is going to run. So for instance, the syntax for a for loop would be for variable starting value to ending value. We're going to execute something, and then we're going to do next variable. So an example of this would be for I 1 to 10. If and then we're going to add something to execute. So I could say print I and then next I on the next line. So what this code would do is that it would print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, because it's going to be going from 1 through 10, and it's every time that it assigns a new value to I, then it's gonna print it. Okay. Then you have a while loop. Okay, post condition, precondition loop. So while condition some execution, right? We're gonna do execute something. Okay, while condition do execute. So this is also pretty simple. So most of the next 2 loops, repeat and while, are used in while. I will explain in a second. So let me just explain the conditional loops first. So you have while condition do this, or you have repeat execute something and until condition. Now both of these are mostly used in validation. An example question would be something like continuously input age and make sure it's above 18. Okay, It's just a random example. So the way to do this using a while loop would be to obviously first input an age, then we're gonna see if age is greater, while age is less than 18, then we're gonna input it again. And maybe we can give an output message like output age must be greater than 18. Right? This is a really bad example, but okay. Now, the reason we don't use while loop that often for validation is because if we look at the same code with a repeat loop, repeat until loop, we can see that it's just going to be input age until age is greater than 18. You can also see that their conditions have a bit of a difference. So in here, we're looking that as long as it's under 18, so as long as the validation failed, we're going to continuously input. And here, we're just going to keep on inputting until the validation pass. So you have to make sure when you're doing the code that it's actually logical. You can think to yourself, oh, while age is less than 18, do I want to input it again? Or how till when do I want to input age, right? I want to input it till eventually the user inputs the right amount of age, right? So that's basically the loops as well. Okay, this is the syntax for the loops. Next, you have functions and procedures. Now, imagine that you have a really long piece of code to calculate the circumference of a circle, like a really long piece of code. Obviously, it's something as simple as returning 2 pi r, but let's just say that it's like 700 lines. Would you copy paste that over and over and over and over again? You wouldn't. A more efficient way to do this would be to make a function that always returns the circumference. So when we talk about functions and procedures, procedures are basically functions that don't return a value. Okay, you can think of it like that. So let's talk about the syntax of a function. So a function with a function name can take in parameters. Okay, so parameter one, type, and then you have to add returns another type, and then something executing, and then it must return a value function. Syntax quite confusing, but let me explain it. Let me break it down for you. So this is going to be the name of the function that you're calling. Okay, so let's just say that we make a function that does return the circumference of a circle. So obviously for the circumference of a circle, you need the radius. So we can say that function circumference is going to be radius, which is an integer, and this returns real because you don't know if the radius is actually, let's make the radius real as well, because you don't know if it's going to be in decimals or it's going to be a whole integer. If the radius was integer, it would be an integer, but you get what I mean. And then what we're going to do is we're going to calculate circumference. Let's just call it cir. And obviously, you're going to calculate this by 2 multiplied by 3.14 multiplied by radius. And then we're going to return this end function. So you see the function name. So if I ever want to call this and I want to say that circle 1 circumference, if I want to calculate the circumference of circle 1, I could just be like circumference and whatever the radius of circle 1 is. So like 4. Okay, and this would obviously return the value 8 pi, right? So whatever that value is. And then similarly, circle 2 circumference is going to be circumference 2. So you can see that this obviously prevents repetition. So obviously prevents repetition. I don't have to copy paste this whole thing over and over again. Now this is a small piece of code, but eventually as we do the past papers, you'll realize that there are codes with multiple lines, and that's why functions end up being useful. Procedures follow a similar direction. Also, one more thing. These data types are of whatever value you're inputting. So this one is for the value you're inputting. So it could be 4.0, it could be 2.0. And this one is whatever value you're outputting. Okay. So you want to see if your value is a real or an integer. Do not make that mistake. Obviously, if you're dealing with pi, it's always going to be a real and blah, blah, blah. Then you have procedures. Procedures are used to do something, execute something in your code without returning something. An example of this would be to take an input and validate it, right? So let's say that I want to make, let's talk about the syntax first actually. So a procedure with a procedure name, it can also take parameters, but it doesn't have a return, right? And then you can execute something and then you can end procedure. So let's just say that I want to make a procedure that that takes an input and validates it. Okay, the same thing that we did above. I would say that procedure input age. Okay, let's just say we want to validate age. Okay, this doesn't require any parameter. I'll show you an example with a parameter as well, but procedure input age, okay? Let's say that I want to validate to make sure that age is above 18. So I could do input age while age is less than 18. Do basically whatever we did over here. I'm just gonna copy paste this actually. Let me just copy paste this. And we're gonna do end procedure. So this is a pretty simple example of a procedure. In order to call a procedure, you use call. Okay, you use the call function. Use the call thingy statement, and you could do call input age. So remember, for functions, you don't have to use call. You can just directly put in the function name. For procedures, you must call. You must use the call statement whenever you're calling a procedure. Now, another example of a procedure would be to be something like procedure print stars. Okay, and then you can say that the number of stars is an integer. So a procedure that prints a certain amount of stars. Okay. To number print a star. Okay. Next I. So you can see. Oops. I'll just change this to a right bracket for now. But you can see that it's gonna take a parameter and it's gonna output whatever I'm saying that amount of time. So that's how a procedure comes useful. And again, to call this, I would be something like call print stars with a numerical value. So it could be 5, it could be 6, it could be 7, whatever numerical value there is. Now, one more concept that we have to understand is the by value and by reference concept. Okay, so imagine that. Let's just talk about procedures. Okay, let's just talk about procedures. Now, by default, we say that these are by val. Okay, let me explain the difference between the two. Imagine that you have a variable over here. Okay, imagine that you have a variable over here. Let's just call it value for now, and value is equal to 1. Now, do we want the value to change based on the procedure? That's basically what we use by val and by ref for. So if you if you take a value and you do by val number, and let's just say that you're editing the number, right? So you can say that number is equal to number add to num and output print number. Now this would just output whatever the number is, add 1 to it, and then print it. However, if you were using by reference, then what this would do is that it would do the same thing. But this time, if you print the value afterwards, if you print the value afterward, it's gonna print 2. Because when we messed with number, when we messed with the parameter and it was by reference, then it basically edited the original value of the function itself. Okay. So this is a mod setting. This is a comment, by the way. So that's basically the difference between by ref or by val. When you're using by ref, it's gonna edit the original integer, and when you're using by val, it's not gonna do that. Okay. There's a whole complicated thing as to why this is, and that involves memory usage, which I think you might have studied in P1. But yeah, that's basically what the difference between by ref and by val is. Next, you have file handling. Now, you have a bunch of file with a bunch of data. Let me just make a test file over here. Okay, let's just make a test file over here. So let's say that I have a file, and the file has like a bunch of words. This is a file of words. Okay, we're gonna use this example file over here for the rest of the. Oh my god, what is this annoying? Okay, we're gonna use this for the rest of the explanation. Okay, so we have a file and it has this bunch of words in that file. Okay, now when we're talking about files, we're gonna talk about a few things. Okay, we're gonna talk about a few things. There's open file, there's close file, there's read file, and there's write file. Okay, there are 4 main commands. Oh, and there's EOF. My bad. There's EOF as well. So whenever you're dealing with a file, let's just say that this file is called file.txt. Okay, this isn't part of the. I'll just write this over here actually. File.txt. Okay, so you have a file.txt. Now, whenever you're dealing with a file, you must remember 2 things. These are going to be the easiest 2 marks of your life. The first thing is open file, whatever the file name is, for whatever mode you're talking about. Okay? Now, mode can be read, write, or append. I'll get into these in a second. But open file, and whenever you're gonna open a file, you want to close it as well. So you're gonna say close file, file.txt. This is gonna be the easiest 2 marks that you're gonna make. Okay, you gotta remember these 2 things. So open file, whatever the file name is inside of a string, for whatever mode it is, and then close file. Now these 3 modes, right? Read, write, append. Let's talk about them. When you're looking at read, obviously you're going to be reading data from the file. So it's going to read this line, and then it's going to read this line, and then it's going to read this line, it's going to read this line, it's going to read this line, it's going to read this line. That's basically what read means. When you're talking about write, now this is a very big confusion. Write versus append. When you're talking about write, it's gonna overwrite the file. So if you have like a file and I do something like write file file.txt with some value, then it's gonna overwrite whatever contents in the file with that. Whereas append is just gonna add another line for it. Okay. And the way that the remaining functions work is simple as well. So you have read file file.txt with some line. So this one is okay. So this one can be a bit confusing, but whenever you're gonna run a read file, what happens is that there's a pointer. Okay, it starts off at the top. Okay, we're gonna call this arrow our pointer. It starts off at the top. Every time that you write read file, it's gonna put whatever this line is into the line variable. Okay, and then if I do it again, if I do read file file.txt into line 2, then it's gonna move this pointer down, and whatever this value is, it's gonna put it in line 2. Okay, and then so on. If I do it again, then it's gonna put this one, and then this one, and then this one, and then this one, and so on and so forth. Okay, so read file, it doesn't read the whole file, but it also what do you say, it reads line by line. What's the difference between write file and open file? Okay, so you have to add open file and close file no matter what, whether it's read, write, or append. If you want to read from a file, you gotta use this. If you want to write to a file, then we use write file. Okay, we're gonna use write file, file.txt, and then some line. I'll get into this a bit. So you gotta write the word statement open file for sure. Okay, you gotta write it for sure. Every single file handling question, you must write open file and you must write close file. Okay, now the function of the write file depends on what mode you opened it in. You're gonna see that I did write file. It's the same as read file, but this time what happens is that if you do write file with some data, then it's basically gonna put that data. So let's just say that the line was something like this is Ateeb Sohail. And it's gonna what it's gonna do is that it's gonna say it's gonna overwrite the file with this is Ateeb Sohail, right? And if it was opened with append, and let's just say the line was equal to some other word like hero, then what it would do is that it would add it to a new line. Okay. Then you have end of file. Now the end of file function is also given in your what do you call it, insert, if this thing opens. Okay, great, nice, amazing. Okay, so it's also given in your insert, and there it explains pretty well what it does. It returns true if there are no more lines. Now you remember the pointer that we were talking about. Okay, you remember the pointer that we were talking about right here. So eventually when it reaches the last point, how do we know if it reaches the last point? We're going to use the EOF function. So if I have, you can see that it takes in one parameter, and that is the file name. So if I have this function, right, I'm going to do EOF of file.txt, and let's say our pointer is right over here. Is it the end of file? It's not the end of file, so this value is going to be false. Then the pointer moves down. It moves down. It moves here. Is this the end of file? It's not. Is this the end of file? It's not. And it's going to go all the way to the last one. When it reaches the last line, it's going to realize that, oh, this is the end of file, and hence it will return true. Now, what the purpose of end of file is, it's when we're reading line by line. Okay. So if you have something like, if you have this file over here, right? And you want to add each one of these lines, you want to add each one of these lines to an array. Okay. So let's say that we have an array of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Declare array through 7 of string. This is a really bad example because we're already given the length, but we're going to assume that we're not. Okay. So we have this array, and what we're going to do is that we're going to say while it's not the end of file of file.txt. Okay. So while it's still reading lines. We're going to read from the file, read file.txt. We're going to store this into a variable, and we're going to add whatever that variable is to the line. Okay, so at a certain index is equal to line. Okay, and then we're going to do end while. Now there's a bunch of problems with this code. The most important problem, the most common mistake when it comes to file handling is that I didn't do open file and close file. Okay, so I didn't do open file.txt, and I didn't do close file.txt. Close file.txt. Now you may be wondering, you may be wondering one thing, why didn't I put both of these things inside of the loop? Every time that you open a file and every time that you're going to close the file, it's going to reset the pointer. Okay, so if for instance our pointer was over here and I closed the file and I reopened it, my pointer isn't going to be here anymore. My pointer is going to be back at the top. Okay, for reading and writing. Okay, so you got to make sure of that. Okay, then another error that I made was not define the value of index. So I'm just going to be like index is going to be 1, and then we're going to increment index every time. Right? So that's the only errors that I made here. Okay, but you got to make sure that you don't make the stupid mistake of not closing and opening your file, and you got to make sure that you're not putting them inside of the loop when it's not necessary. Okay, and I think that's it for file handling as well. We're going to do more when we get to the questions. And there's also some other commands that are mentioned in the pseudocode guide, but I haven't seen them come up like ever. So I don't know if it's worth, but it's good to know. Okay, so there's a seek command, which basically what it does is that it takes a file. Okay, it takes a file and it takes an address. So seek file.txt, and you're gonna give it an address, and it basically points the pointer to that address. Okay, it basically moves the file pointer to that given location. So if you put in 2 and this is the second address, then it's going to point it over here. It's not going to come probably, but it's good to know. Then you have sorry about that. Okay, so you also have public and private methods. Okay, these are the next thing that I'm about to teach you. They're not, I haven't at least seen a question of them. There's probably some question out there, but these are in the pseudocode guide, and it's good to know anyway. So there are public and private methods. So as you know, public method means that it can be called globally. Private method means that it can only be called within a certain area, within a certain region. So to do that, you just add private or public before the function name. So if you have a function like function hello world, which returns an integer, right? You can just add public or private before it, public, private, right? You can also do this with variables. So you can say private attempts integer, okay? And then you can do attempts equal to 3. This is for declaration, by the way. So yeah, for instance, this could be useful if you want to do it inside of a function. So if you have like a function calc marks and it's some function, right? It's something, you could do private attempts integer, and then you can do you could work around with that. But that's basically what private and public is. You can add it before a function, you can add it before variables, procedures, and so on. And what else? This is within a class, by the way. I forgot to mention that this is within a class. Sorry, my bad, my bad. I don't know if you guys probably not done T4, and I don't know if you know what classes are, but basically what a class is that, by the way, you can skip this. I don't think that I've ever seen a question on this, but it's in the guide. Okay, so you can define a class student, and how that works is that, let me show you. Let me give you an example. Okay, let's say that I have a private variable called attempts, which is an integer, and then I have a private function called calc marks, which basically takes in marks as an integer, turns integer, and it basically returns marks multiplied by attempts and procedure and class. So what a class is, don't pseudocode records do the same thing as a class? Not exactly. When you're talking about pseudocode records, they're a bit different because they're one variable that have a bunch of attributes you can call, whereas classes, you can put entire functions and procedures into it. Okay? You can put entire functions and procedures into it. So when I make a student, when I make a student, then what I could do next is that I could do something like student dot calc marks, right? And then that would give me something. I don't think that I've ever seen anybody be tested on this, but it's good to know. And with that, I think that's all of the revision that we need to do. The rest is just going to be question answers. Sorry, past paper questions. Will 2D arrays be covered? Yes, we're going to cover that as soon as we get into the past paper questions. Does anybody have any questions regarding pseudocode, anything? Most people aren't taught pseudocode classes, so if you're confused in that, let me know, or anything else. Now we're going to move on to past paper questions. Well, are you also going to be teaching this? It's going to depend on the time, because paper 2 is already pretty lengthy with this theory. If we have time, then I'm going to go over the IGCSE pseudocode syntax, probably. Can we go over byref or byval again? Of course we can. Let me actually show an example to you by opening up an IDE, a pseudocode IDE. Hold on. I hope my screen is visible. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to open up this code editor and I'm going to show you exactly what it does. So okay, why is it not closing? Okay. Yes. Okay, let me just, okay. So let's say we have a procedure. Okay, let's just say that we have a number at the start and we're going to give this number the value of 1. Procedure add 1. And first we're going to take it by value. Okay, we're going to say number. And then we're going to say number is equal to number plus 1. And we're going to output this. End procedure. And then we're going to output number again. So I told you that when you do it by value, then it's not going to affect the original variable at all in any way. So both of these would output the number 1. This one would output the number 1, which was the original value, and this one would output the number 2. So if I run this, you're going to see that, well, it eventually runs. Oh, sorry, I forgot to integer and declare number integer. My bad, I forgot to add the types. Program running with 5 seconds. What? Unexpected token number expect. Oh. Why am I messing this up? What syllabus am I on? Oh, I'm on IGCSE. My bad. I thought I was on A levels. Okay. So, oh, I forgot to call the function. Sorry. Call add 1 number. Okay. So if I run this, you're gonna see that it's gonna output 2 and 1. Okay, that's what by value is. It's going to take in the original value and it's going to put it in. Okay, but if I change this to byref, you're going to see something really weird happen. If I change this to byref, you're going to see that it's now run, please. It's now 2. Why did this happen? When we took in the variable by reference, what it did is that when it edited it like this, then whatever value this was, it stored it in here. It stored it in the global variable. Okay, so imagine it like this. Okay, I'm going to show it to you in complicated terms so that you can understand it better. So you have your RAM. Okay, you have your RAM, and your RAM has a bunch of data in it. Okay, your RAM has a bunch of data. Let's just take in the number variable. Okay, when you're passing this This is the number variable right over here. When you're passing this into a function, what it does is that it duplicates it for the function, right? Which is what's going to happen if you do by value, okay? It's only going to take the value and it's going to duplicate it and it's going to or do whatever it wants to do with that number. But when you take it by reference, then whenever you're going to edit this variable over here by reference, what it's going to do is that it's going to make changes to the original memory address, which was this. So when you convert this, when you add a number to it, then what it's going to do is that it's going to change whatever value in this address was to this number. Okay, so simpler way to learn this is that by value doesn't override, by reference that it does override. So the difference is that if the execution, yes, sort of, exactly. When do we use by reference though? They mostly tell you in the question when they want you to use by reference. You only use by reference when you want the global variable to edit. Most of the times they do tell you in the question. I don't think I've seen a question that where they didn't tell you. They're going to tell you when you need to use by reference. Mostly it's like 2-3 marker questions where they tell you that this variable is being passed. Also, one more thing, another place that by reference is used, structure diagrams. Okay, so you have structure diagrams and let's just say they ask you to make the function headers. Now, but there is a certain type of variable that you pass. I don't remember. I haven't revised IGCSE besides pseudocode in a while. But there is a certain type of pass that is by reference. So you gotta identify it then. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, let me see structure diagram question by ref by val pseudocode 9618/22. I don't remember. I haven't done this in a while, so I don't remember any question off the top of my heart. But there's probably some question that regarding a structure diagram that I probably forgot. Hold on. I do remember that there was something like that. Boolean, yeah, Boolean is there, but wasn't there something that indicated by ref and by val in a structure diagram? Wait, 9618 syllabus, or am I confusing myself? 2 arrow. Yes, 2 arrows. I think that was it. Wait, let me open up the syllabus. I think it was 2 arrows. Oops. Yeah, an arrow both ways. Okay, yeah. So when you're talking about a structure diagram that has an arrow both ways, so you have this variable and it's pointing like this, and it's pointing like this, and it's an x variable, then you have to obviously identify that this is by reference. So when they ask you to make a function header for this, you're gonna say by ref x. But if it's pointing in a single direction, then it's gonna be just by val. There we go. Yeah, I think that was it. Structure. Where are structure diagrams? Okay, absolute shit. But yeah, that's basically it. If there's an arrow pointing both ways, you're gonna use by reference, and if there's an arrow pointing in one way, you're gonna use by val. This is a really common question, so you should know the difference between by val and by ref in the structure diagrams. But yeah, that is basically all of the pseudocode revision that we need before we get into past paper practice. Any other questions? I'm gonna figure out in some 9618 topicals. 9618 B2 topicals. Paper 3, paper 1, paper 2. Okay. Think this should be it. Okay, let me download this. Download. Ba, 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 ba. Should have prepared this beforehand, but it's okay. Structure diagrams, can we go over that too? Sure. Okay, I'll go over them real quick. I now remember, thankfully. I'll go over it, no problem. While this downloads, I'll go over structure diagrams. Just the two of us. I think that's the only thing. I think this has like long-term questions as well. No, oh, it doesn't. Wait, which chapter has the actual pseudocode? What the hell? Is it programming? Bruh. Anyways, I'm so rusty on AS because my A2 is going on and I practice P4 and P3 so much, so I kind of forgot all the chapters. I don't think that's no, it's okay. So structure diagram works when you have a bunch of squares and these squares correlate to each other. Okay, so it's basically a structure diagram is used to define a bunch of modules. So let's say that you have a module X, module Y, and module Z. Now the module X communicates with the module Z and module Y. Okay, so let me just do X, Y, and Z. Okay, so it kind of looks like this. This is a relationship. Okay, so X communicates with Y and X communicates with Z. Now, when you use a box to define a module. Now, a module can also loop. Okay, so it can also loop, for which you use this symbol. Okay, if you want to loop a module, if they say anything about looping a module, like module X as a loop, then you're gonna use the looping thingy. Okay, then each one of these modules pass each other values. Okay, so for instance, it can pass a variable like this. Okay, so you need to understand the symbols. For a looping module, you add an arrow beneath the module. For a normal module, you just add a square. For variables, a normal variable would look like this. Okay, going from one direction to another, right? Let's just say that this variable is A. A variable which is a boolean. Okay, so this is like string, real, whatever. But if it's a boolean, then you're gonna add a filled color to it. Okay, so if it's a boolean, we're gonna fill the color, kind of like this. Okay, and if it's by reference, like we just discussed, we're gonna do this. Okay, whether it's boolean, if it's boolean, then we're gonna fill it obviously, but if it's by reference, then we're gonna do this. These are the symbols for the structure diagram. Let me try to find a question that we can real quickly solve so that you can understand that better. It's probably somewhere over here. Probably. Come on, give me a structure diagram, bro. Oh my god, fuck my life. Actually, I remember from my CAI, there was a really good structured diagram question. Wait, P229618. Let's just do that one, okay? Let's just do that one. I remember it was a really good one. That perfectly explains by reference and by value right here. So I'm just gonna pull that up. I think it was this one. Yeah, okay. Right. Okay. I also have the solved copy for this, so I'm gonna pull up the solved copy as well. A Cambridge marked copy. Hold on just a second. I'll turn off my stream just a second. Let me just pull that copy up. 9618. In structure diagram for looping, do we always go right to left? I think you should always go right. Yeah, I think you're supposed to go right to left always. That's just a you know such style of the code. The style of the code. Let me also pull up this paper to give you guys like a view on how Cambridge marks your papers. Might as well. We got time. 9618. Please open. Why is my laptop lagging, bro? God damn it. Yes. This is supposed to be an SSD. Why is it so slow, bro? 9618. I commit arson. Let me send it from my phone to my Mac. Share my screen as well. Is the Obsidian so slow? No. My laptop's being slow for some reason. It's just been so slow since since I upgraded to the development build of Tahoe. I don't know why I did that. I was just bored one day and I was like, oh, you know what? Let's experiment with some glitchy operating system, and I'm suffering the consequences. So, yeah. Okay, there we go. Finally. Okay. So this was my CAIE transcript. So if I go over, by the way, this is so bullshit, bro. I'm gonna show you guys this. This was the question. Repeat from step 3 until end of file old file.txt. The reason they didn't give me the mark, I don't even know. Like if I pull up the question paper, the MS for this question paper. Wait, hold on. Let me show you guys. Let me show you how stupid Cambridge is. Let me pull up the end the freaking MS. Right. Till end of old file.txt. End of file old file.txt. What is this? Are you gonna cut a mark because I wrote end of file? Like what the heck? It's right there and it's there. Pisses me off. Pisses me off. Anyways, guys, also please do not waste time on like just pseudocode. Make sure that you know everything. Like for instance, this would have been the easiest 4 marks of my life. This was that weird thing where you had to like just describe it, and I got 1 mark out of 4. This is like the easiest question for some people. But yeah, where is that? Okay, yes, okay, structure diagram. So like I said, you have this, right? So structure diagram, each one of this is a module. So this is a convert module. This is the content behind this. Okay, fine, whatever. This is a convert module. This is an update module. This is a sort module. This is an analyze module, right? Now they're exchanging variables to each other. So the count is going from convert to analyze and convert to update and convert to sort. And this variable over here, you can see that you can see that it has an arrow in both directions, so it's by reference. Okay, and this one over here, it's going here and it's going here. It's just going to be a by value, which if you look over here, I did do that. Okay, so if they asked us to make procedure headings, which I just told you, this is the most common pseudocode structure diagram. They asked us to make a procedure heading for analyze. Now you can see that the function, the procedure analyze, it takes in the count variable. It doesn't return anything. If it doesn't return anything, then it's obviously a procedure, right? Because we know, okay, if a module, this is the way for a module to take an input, and this is a way to give it an output. So if it doesn't return an output, then it's obviously a procedure, right? So that's why I did procedure analyze count is an integer. Okay, because because they mentioned that it was the number of elements. Okay. Oh, that is right to left. Oh, my bad. I think it doesn't depend. I think it doesn't matter. My bad. I apologize. You can do left, right, or right, left. I think left to right is the default syntax. I think I just messed it up. I don't think it really matters that much. They don't ever. I've never seen an MS being like that. My bad. But yeah. So you have the analyze, which is basically from it being going to convert, which is basically it being sent as a parameter. Then you have the update function, which takes in this parameter and it outputs this parameter, it returns this parameter, which is what I did. So I did a key is a string and it returns an integer because they mentioned that it is the number of elements. T1 is the number of elements, so it returns an integer. And lastly, this one over here, sort. Now, sort is, doesn't the direction show the order it's called? What do you mean by that? I don't understand. Now, the sort thingy, as you can see that it doesn't return anything, but it's using a by reference variable. Okay, it's using a by reference variable. So I'm gonna kill this laptop someday. So that's why I use by reference, like just like how I told you right now. You can see that this is an arrow in both directions. So I said by reference, P2 is a Boolean because it's obviously highlighted like that. Then there were the procedure questions, normal procedure questions. Yeah, guys, by the way, let me show you guys another tip. I asked them for an answer booklet just to cross out everything because, well, it was rough work. I needed to do some rough work before I put it into the paper. This can sometimes be useful because then your paper doesn't get messy, but you don't have to worry about this. If your paper does eventually get messy, you can just ask them for an extra sheet and continue on to there. But yeah, I think that's the most I can show from this paper. Oh yeah, this was a question that almost nobody knew for some reason, but acceptance testing was the final testing stage. You can ask for an additional booklet. Every single one of my papers I've asked for additional booklet. Every single one. uh, Honestly, Cambridge doesn't care that much about writing at all. Like if I were to show you my math P1 paper, let me show you guys another example of that. Let me show you guys my math P1 paper. Aren't beta and acceptance same stage? No, 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 no. Acceptance testing you can think of as the final testing stage, right? It's when your client is testing it. Okay, beta means that you're just giving it to a whole audience. Okay, you're just giving it to a whole audience. Acceptance testing means that your final client is testing it. Okay, I'm gonna send you guys some notes in the chat right now. I'll show you. Wait, this one. I'll show you. These are actually peak notes. I don't know where I found them from. I found them from the IGCSE channel. I don't know who made them, but these are the most peak notes that I've ever read. And if I scroll over to acceptance testing, bruh, bruh, okay. I swear to God, it was here. I think it was on Z Notes, but yeah, just check it off of Z Notes. But yeah, acceptance testing is the final one that is being done by your client, and beta testing is just a whole new audience of people. But yeah, as I was saying, look at this. Look at how shitty I wrote. Like at one point, my question was literally this was my working for one of the questions, and they still give me a mark. Still give me a mark on this. I don't know how. Yeah, I wrote the answer in the center. I did working on the right, the left, the bottom, the top, everywhere. But yeah, this is they love me, bro. I know in my mechanics paper, I literally wrote every single question on an answer booklet because I kept redoing it over and over again, over and over and over and over and over again. But yeah, yeah. See, you can do it on the additional page as well, kind of like how I did this, and then I did answer booklets, but I did a lot of rough work. You can see a lot of rough work. Oh, also, I think you guys have your S1 tomorrow, so let me give you like a bit of tips for that as well, because we'll take 5 minutes and then we'll go over to the uh, fun part. So, guys, oh, wait, no, this is physics. Oh, shit. Fuck physics. I hate physics. God damn it, I hate physics. Wait, just a second. S1 is very easy. S1 is very easy. Physics is shit, man. I'm telling you, bro. I had my P4 today and I wanted to cry because it went so bad. But yes, S1. Guys, listen, please do not make this stupid mistake. Let me show you guys. 9702 October November 25 P52 MS. Let me show you guys. Do not make this stupid mistake of, look, the marking scheme. Bro, which papers did I open? Oh, I opened physics. Fuck. 9709. Okay, so the marking scheme over here, it shows the exact same expression I wrote, right? 0.6 to the power of 4 multiplied by 0.4, which is exactly what I did. But what I did is that I rounded it off to 3 significant figures when it could have been written as 4 because it was an exact. So if it's an exact value, write it as here, but it's even better if you just write it as the original fraction, okay? So if I just wrote it as 162 over 3125, my answer is correct, but they didn't give me a mark because I rounded it off. Okay, do not make this mistake. Make sure that you're not using this symbol accidentally in normal distribution, even though I think it's correct, but don't use this symbol in normal distribution. If you guys have a calculator, please, if you guys have an FX991EX calculator, please learn how to do this, because if you look over here, I solved this entire question. I got 4.58 as my answer, but then I put in these values into the calculator and it showed me that the answer was 3.25, so I had to do it again. This saved me like 3 freaking marks. Insane. So get one of those. Same thing goes here. I found out the answer, but then I checked it again, right? And then you have the, yeah, here I forgot to label the x-axis, so I wrote frequency density over here, but I forgot to write time over here, so don't make that mistake either. Same thing over here. I calculated the z value and then and yeah, don't make stupid mistakes. How do you use a calculator to solve these questions? You just Google like a video on how to do normal distribution using a calculator. It's really simple. Normal and binomial. But yeah, all subjects lead to math. No, I was just showing a question on structure diagram, and that just led me to like not make let you guys not make the same mistakes tomorrow. But yes, let's move on to the CSP2. Isn't it only available? Yeah, it's the one that I use is FX991EX. And that is a peak calculator. I calculate binomial. You can calculate binomial approximation. You can calculate normal distribution. All of it on there. So it's a peak calculator. You should definitely get that if you can from a friend or whatever. Oh, oops. Where is the past papers that I just downloaded, bro? Okay, here they are. Right. So I'm also gonna pull up the insert 9618 insert because you're gonna use an insert a lot. A lot. Okay. So let's go over each one of these. Okay. Do they have a marking scheme here? Amazing. Amazing. I'm gonna pull up their marking scheme because again, just a human, I can make mistakes as well. Why is there no marking scheme? What the hell? Google the exam code at the bottom of the page or the top of the question. We are compiling marking schemes. Does anybody have any good topicals, please? Does anybody have good topicals? This is pissing me off. There's no marking scheme, bro. AS. Okay, that's just P1. Thank you. Past paper penguin. You should do the last questions from the yearly P2. Yeah, we will. We will. I'm gonna take us slowly over there. Slowly. We probably have like another 2 hours in the session, so we got time. Where is what was it called? Past paper penguin. Bruh, I'm gonna kill myself. Uh, Study Haven, sure. Study Haven. Resources, topicals, CAIE, computer science. I think this should be it. And let's do 2021, 2022. But what the heck? Didn't 9618 come out in 2021? Where? What the hell? Okay, never mind. Pastpaperpenguin.com. I'm just pastpaperpenguin.com. Please give me some A-level topical questions. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna be confident that I'm right here. I'm just gonna be confident that I'm right. Okay, let me also pull up the insert. So, like I said, we're gonna look at this question. So, the pseudocode statements in the following table may contain errors. State the error in each case, or write no error if the statement contains no error. Okay, so right over here, we can see that they're using a assignment operator inside of the if statement. So that is obviously an error because if you want to compare something, then you would use equal to. You wouldn't use the assignment operator. Okay, so there's an operator issue here. So that's what you would write on the error. Okay, where is it? Why is it physics? My bad. Fuck's sake. Yeah, it should be equal to not an arrow. Then you have status is num minus 13.4. Now this can be tricky at first. But if I go over here, okay, if I go over here and I open up the insert and I go over to the isNum function, you can see that returns true if the string represents a valid numerical value. Okay, they said that data type may be char or string. Does this look like a char or string? It does not. So it must be a char or string. That's an error with this statement. Let's go over to the marking scheme. And yeah, parameter should be a string. Okay. It shouldn't be a real. Then you have string to num 37 plus 5. Again, let's see. Let's look up the string to num function here. String to num x is data type. It my baby char or string. This is string, so there is no error. Okay, it's gonna take 37 plus 5. The next one here, this is going to be an error because you're adding two strings. Okay, realistically, if you did this in Python, it would probably do something like 375, but basically this would give an error, and that error would be that you can't add strings together. Okay, if I pull up the marking scheme, you can see no error and wrong operator. It should be an ampersand. Okay, plus is not a thing, and this parameter is not a string. Okay, pretty simple. Not gonna go over this, not gonna go over this, not gonna go over this, not gonna go over this. Okay, this is a nice one. Okay, so, oh, right. So here they have given us a pseudocode. Take like 2 minutes to go over this. Okay, so there is a really simple thing to do. So we know that it can only call 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so there's only sub 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now let's just add the values of A. Okay, so right over here, if A is true, B is true, C is true, then it calls sub 1. Okay, so if A, oh my god, what is wrong with my, if A is true and B is true and C is true, then it's gonna call sub 1. Okay, so we're gonna write sub 1. If A is true, B is true, and C is false, so A, B, C, and C is false, then it's gonna call sub 2. If A is false, oops, if A is false because it's an else, and B is true and C is true, it's gonna call sub 4. And if A is false, B is true, and C is false, so A, B, C, where A is false and C is false, it's gonna call sub 3. And if A is false, B is false, and C is false, so A, B, C, and they're all false, and it's gonna call sub 3. And if A is false, B is false, C is true, because remember they did a condition where it's false. So, and if A, B, C, if A and B are false and C is true, then it's going to call sub 4. So this is a pretty simple thing. Okay, so you should probably draw this out in your brain. And now in order to convert this to pseudocode, they said that each one contains a single false statement. So we're going to write the case for each one. So there's only one case for one, and that is when A and B and C are true. So we can say that, why isn't it letting me put text, bro? Okay, we can say that if A is equal to true and B is equal to true and C is equal to true, then what? Then call sub 1 and if, right? So that's the first case. I'm just gonna bring this over here. Actually, I'm gonna bring this over here. Right. I hope that's visible. So we've done the first case right over here. We're done with it. The next case is sub 2, and that's only possible when A is true, B is true, and C is not true. Okay, so we're gonna do the second statement of if is gonna be if A is equal to true and B is equal to true and C is equal to false, then then call sub 2 and if. Okay, and then the next case is sub 3. Now there are two possibilities. A is false, B is true, C is false, or A is false, B is false, C is false. Now the simpler way to go through this is just to write a really long statement. There's another way to simplify the logic, but we don't care about that. So we can say or, so condition 1 or condition 2. Okay, so the first condition is A is equal to false, B is equal to true, and C is equal to false, or A is equal to false and B is equal to false and C is equal to false. And then we're gonna call sub 3, right? And if last condition is for 4, and we're going to do the exact same logic here. So A is false if A is equal to false and B is equal to true and C is equal to true, or A is equal to false, B is equal to false, and B is equal to false, and C is equal to true, then we're going to call sub 4. Okay, so that is a pretty simple question. And yeah. But what's the strat for students like me who have solved like max 5 P2s in the entire session, and the main problem is just thinking and logic for the question and finding these errors? Okay. Now, most you gotta just practice these questions. I'm telling you, these questions are insanely repetitive. You can open up any two past papers, and you're gonna see that it's the same thing repeated over again. For instance, the structure diagram I showed you. The structure question about pseudocode headers is very repeated. Okay, they use byref and byval to trick you. They're gonna ask you to make a structure diagram. Okay, straight transition diagrams are so repeated. These are all repeated questions. The entire Cambridge is based on repeated questions. Okay, if you do a lot of these questions, obviously now there's no time. I think P2 is on Wednesday, and if you have math P1, then you basically have one day. If you do like a lot of practice, then you're gonna be able to ace this thing. But if you're not able to do a lot of practice, I would say that look at questions from May, June 25 till today. Okay, like May, June 25, whatever your variant is, October, November 25, May, June 24, October, November 24, whatever your variant is, and do the pseudocode questions in that. You're going to realize that there are some repetitions. And there's one more thing that I'm going to cover when we get to the pseudocode questions, that I'm going to show you guys that, oh, if it's an 8-mark question, you can get 2 marks by just doing this. Let me show you that right now. Let me pull up my CS1 again. No, that's not it. Let me pull up my CS model again. I'm going to show you guys this, okay? Okay, I think this one is it. No, wait. Yeah, there we go. All right, so look at this question over here. This question was from the last thing, okay? If let's say, look, this completely depends on you, however much can get you confident. If let's say that something happens and you don't understand how to do this, they gave me 1 mark for declaration. They gave me 1 mark for a for loop, which you can instantly 10, by the way. You can read this question. Count loans called with a parameter of type string representing a student ID. I did that. Counts the number of books currently on the loan, counts the number of books that the student has already returned, output both counts together. So blah, 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 blah. There's 7,000. So you can instantly tell that there's a for loop. They gave me 1 for the procedure header. They gave me 1 for this. They gave me 1 for comparison. They gave me 1 for loan. They gave me 1 from total, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, okay, if you didn't know all of this, you can still get 1 mark by just making the procedure header. Worst case scenario. And you're going to realize that, oh, these are being repeated. They're always going to give like 1 to 2 marks for doing the most easiest stuff. And then if you open up the marking scheme for this paper, I'm going to open up I think I did open up the marking scheme. Yeah. If I go over to question number 8, right over here, declaration of index and 2 count variables, loop for 7,000 iterations. They're going to look at these points and they're going to see your code. Your code can be wrong and you can still make 5 marks. If you show them that you loop for 7,000 iterations for 1 to 7,000, which is not that hard. They told us to count the number of books. Obviously, we're going to loop through the loan array, right? 1 through 7,000. Index references and index data with the correct dot notation. That's going to be about the records. Okay. They're just looking if you can reference it properly. Attempt to compare student ID field equal to parameter in a loop. Which you can see I did over here. They gave me 1 mark for that. Test the unknown field and correct logic for both outcomes. Did that. Blah, blah, blah. Do you do planning for pseudocode? How do you plan the flow of your score? Okay, I'll get into that just a second. And then over to the second part, which is the B part. Right, again, 1 mark for the function error, 1 mark, 2 marks just to compare the loops. And found index. So you're gonna see that these questions are really easy to score in, especially when I get to this, and I'll show you how to think about these as well. But these are really easy questions to score in. And the original ones, the ones which are like this, which are like a really huge 7-marker question, it's even easier because they give you like 1 mark for this, 1 mark, 2 marks for this. For basic things, you can literally, all you have to do when you're attempting a pseudocode question, how do you plan? They always tell you something like this, that the function is going to do this. You go line by line. You go line by line. They said this is a function. So you're going to write the function header. They said that it's going to take 4 parameters. You're going to add those 4 parameters, which I did over here. Then they said return false if string 2 has fewer characters than string 1. Return true if the comparison is true. So, and they also gave us a bunch of examples. Okay. So let's look at this. Okay. You want to basically think in your mind what is going to happen. It's going to compare two strings, string 1 and string 2, a character position to indicate whether string 1 will be compared with the start or the end. Okay. So it's going to take a string and it's going to either compare the start of this string or the end of this string, okay, based on whatever the position is. A Boolean case matters to indicate whether an uppercase is used or a lowercase. Okay. Return false if it has fewer characters. Return true if the comparison is true. Okay. So you can see that over here, they're gonna ask us to return false if string 2 has fewer characters than string 1. Okay, no matter what. So I instantly wrote if string 2 is less than string 1, return false. They told us this in this condition. Okay, they told us this right over here. If it has few characters, instantly return false. 3 marks, that pretty easy for just writing this part. Okay. Then they said that we have to compare. Now, what they're asking in this question is that you're giving string 1 and you're giving string 2, and you're told if case matters or not. And you have to compare either the start, so like the start of this, to the end or the end, so like from the right side. So it's either from the left side or the right side. So for instance, we have this string over here. You have to tell if this cat is equal to whatever the start of this is. So obviously what we're going to do is that, okay, we are going to compare the bigger string or the smaller string to each other. Okay. So if string 1 is greater than string 2, right? If string 1 is greater than string 2, sorry, we're gonna figure out whichever we're gonna figure out whichever is the smaller string. Okay, we're gonna figure out whichever is the smaller string and take the number of characters in there. So for instance, this one has 3 characters, so obviously we're gonna compare it to 3 characters of the other string. Okay, we're gonna compare it to 3 characters of the other string. So if the position is from the start, okay, if it's from the start, then it's from the left side, obviously. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna see why can I not type here, brother? Okay, so if it's from the left side, then obviously we're going to use the left thing. Okay, so and we're going to pass in string 2 or whatever the largest string is, and we're going to do whatever number of characters the first string was, right? And we're going to see if this is equal to string 1. Are you getting my point? Right over here, right? Because they asked us to compare the starts or the ends of the strings individually. Then they asked us, or we could make it for the end. So for the end, it would have been something like write string 2 3 is equal to string 1. Okay. Oh, I accidentally used double equal, my bad. It should be single equal. But yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to say. And if it's some case like this, then obviously we're gonna reverse this. Okay, it's gonna be string 1 or whatever the largest string is, and so on and so forth. Okay. We can also use the mid function. You can use the mid function. You can say, oh, I thought I closed it. You can use the mid function. You can be like, okay, the starting position is 1, but might as well use the right or left. You can use the mid as well. It doesn't matter. But just make sure that you're using the starting position as 1 or whatever the starting position is. But yeah. So you can see over here what I did was, okay, I made a compare to and a compare with. Okay, so to determine which one is the larger one. Okay. Now, what I did then is that if it's from the start, then, oh, wait. Shit, they gave me marks for this. Wait, hold on. My code wasn't correct and they gave me marks. What the hell? The fuck? Hey, yo. Wait. Compare to is left of string 2. ठीक है. What? Excuse me? Just a second, guys. Petition to revoke. What the heck? Okay, so the thing that I'm confused on is that I did not account for this case right over here. They gave us a special case over here. I did not account for that. So like I didn't account for string 1 to be greater than string 2. But basically what I did is I made a compare to variable and a compare with variable. And then I determined that compare to should be left or compare to should be right? So it's either from the right side or the left side. And then what I did is that they said that if is that case matters is also an option. So what I did is if it's not case matters, if case doesn't matter, then we can just make both of them lowercase or uppercase. Okay, so that's what I did. And in the end, I just compared them and returned the value. So the thing that I was confused on is that I did not account for this last case in my question. So this is clear proof. My function in practicality absolutely wrong, but they still gave me 7 out of 7 because I matched their points, which was, where is it? I think this is question 6. Question 6. This is a clear example, okay? So the first mark was for function heading and parameter and ending and blah blah blah. Did that, got 1 mark. Calculate length of string 1. Did that, got 1 mark. And compare modify if string 1 is then return this, did that, got 1 mark. So this is where they gave me mark for calculation right over here, this tick, and this tick is for the comparison, so 3 marks. Then they asked us to compare the modified string, which I did right over here, this end part, so they gave me 1 mark for that. Test case matters, right? So that I did over here, which is that 1 mark. And test for value of SE and modified strings in one or both cases. I think they didn't give me mark for this one and they gave me marks. No, but they did. I don't know why they did. Test for the value of SE and form modified string in one or both cases. Okay, I think they just tested my code and they just luckily stumbled upon the cases that would work, which is basically everything but the last case. So let's go. So they tested it and it worked for the case. Okay. And then they gave me a mark for returning the value. Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, this wasn't a lenient examiner, man. How do you call that end of file shit lenient? This wasn't a lenient examination. But yeah. So that's basically what I'm trying to tell you guys. From pseudocode, they genuinely, you can score full marks even if your code is wrong. You just have to know what the examiner is looking for. Okay. So for instance, let's go over to another question for pseudocode. No. I think I don't think anybody needs help in these. These are pretty simple now. You just look at the insert. Where are the pseudocode questions? Okay. Study the following pseudocode procedure in code contains a loop structure. What? 2 marks for this? Blah. Okay. Never mind. Okay, this is a nice question. Let's do this question. What year is this from? Wow. Why doesn't it say what year is this from? What the hell? Okay, let's just take out any yearly. Can you guys give me like any yearly question that you find difficult? I'm gonna start off with May June 25 P22. Just send me any question that you find difficult, that you think is hard. We'll do it, but let's just go over everything. Repeat. Let me download this paper. The year was at the bottom. Oh, okay, we'll do that question as well. Okay, so do you guys want me to solve the entire P2 or do you think just the pseudocode part would be enough? I can do either one of those. It's up to you guys. I'm gonna close. Actually, let me just keep this open and close this. Entire P2. Okay. Okay, we'll solve the entire P2. We'll solve the entire P2. I'll also open the marking scheme side by side so that in case of any mistake that I make. Okay. Explain refer to the insert for the list of pseudocode functions and operators. A program is being developed to control the production line in a factory. A number of different program life cycles are available for the development of the program. Explain the need for different development life cycles. Coding is a stage in a program development life cycle. State one condition that consideration that would influence the choice of the programming language. Now, any past paper, but the last question, please. Sure, obviously. Okay. The program has been used in a number of months and adaptive maintenance is required. Give three reasons why adaptive maintenance may be required and identify one other type of program maintenance. Now this entire thing is just program development lifecycle. This is going to be the easiest marks that you ever make. If we look over to the marking scheme, one important thing that you guys have to know about these kinds of paper is you guys have to know that what the keywords are. Okay, Cambridge is for some reason extremely strict on keywords in CS at least. But okay, let's look over here. So there's a lot of reasons. It could be money related, right? You need money. It could be very costly. Okay, it could be for speed. It could be for efficiency. Blah blah blah. Any one of those would work, right? So one mark that would influence the blah blah blah. Rapid development, speed, prototypes, complexity, skills, budget, time, blah blah blah. So easy one mark, right? Then you have state one consideration that would influence the choice of the programming language. So, you know what? This is again, look at the marking scheme. They said which programming language would be best. The fuck? Oh, sorry. Whichever programming language would be the best to choose to solve the problem. Honestly, if this question came, I would not have given the exact keyword. Okay, I would not have known what the answer was because this is such a weird question. But yeah, you just write whichever programming is best. Okay. Three reasons why adaptive maintenance. Again, there can be environmental changes, new technology. Guys, please, these notes. Wait, let me send this here. Memorize these notes and you will be good to go. If I go over to program development lifecycle, you can see they literally gave us the benefits. They told us it makes it easier to plan and manage. Okay, where is this question? Okay, why adaptive maintenance is required? Adaptive maintenance accommodates legislative changes, allows program to be updated if new technologies are made available. Where did it go? Is this the MS? No, this is the MS. But yeah, change to requirements, new technology available, changes made to library module use, legislative changes. Okay, then you have one other type of program maintenance. You can do perfective or you can do corrective maintenance, which again, right over here, given in these notes, perfective and corrective, right? I really hope that you guys go over these notes once so that you can revise the questions. These are basically marking scheme keyword based answers. You can see, like I'm showing you guys, accommodates legislative changes. Literally the marking scheme. Literally. Whoa, where did it go? Literally the marking scheme answers. So these these notes, go over them one time. Then you have pseudocode has been used to design modules for the program to control the production line. Shows 4 valid pseudocode expressions. Okay, so the data type, obviously, this for this one you can refer to the insert, so you can see that right, it returns string, so the answer to this one is going to be string. Speed start 2.5. So remember, this is a real, so the final answer is obviously going to be a real. So it's going to be a real. Not status, this is obviously boolean, and then is num, same thing, refer to the insert where is num. This returns boolean, so it's going to be boolean. So you can look at the marking scheme again. So string, real, boolean. Okay. A global array product is used as part of the pseudocode design being developed to control the production line. Product is used to store the number of rejected items each day. The following pseudocode statement is used to assign a value to an element of the day. The lower and upper bound are shown in the table. State the number of dimensions of product. Okay, so obviously there is an X and Y, so this is a 2D array. Okay, so this is 2-dimensional because there is an X and Y. So let me explain you guys 2D arrays in like a quick gist. So a 1D array looks something like this, right? Where you have a bunch of values separated by a comma. A 2D array is basically an array of arrays. So it kind of looks like this. It has an array inside of it, and then it has another array, and then it has another array, and then it has another array, and it goes on and on and on. And this array basically is extended like this. Okay, and then basically what this is that you have an X, which basically determines the index of the first array. So either this array, this array, this array, and then you have a Y, which basically determines the final values index inside of this array. So like for instance, if they said 1 1, then it would be the first index of the first array in the global array. If they said 2 1, then it would be the first index of the second array. If they said 3 3, then it would be the third index of the third array, right? So you can see that they're taking two bounds. So hence it's gonna be 2. It's gonna be a 2D array. State the total number of elements in the array product. Okay, now the product array is actually the one that's global here. Okay, so you can see this one, this big one. Okay, this big one. Now this array's element, whatever elements the arrays have inside of them, that doesn't matter to us. Okay, the only thing that matters to us is the length of the number of elements in the array product. Okay, so we know that the X goes to 99. So there's 99 total arrays. Okay, 99 total elements. And the pseudocode declaration, pretty simple. We just did that. We're gonna say, we're gonna say declare product array. So for 2D arrays, what we do is we add the first one, the X one, so 0 to 99, and then we add a comma and add the second one. Okay, so 0 to 9 off, and they said that it is being blah blah blah, it is used to value, it's an integer because they said 23 right here, so it's going to be off integer. Okay, so declare product array 0 to 99, 0 to 9 of integer. Okay, so you first add the X and then you add the Y. Then they said stepwise refinement has been used in the design of the program. Again, just just memorize this from the marking scheme. To increase the level of details from the algorithm, to break the algorithm into smaller steps. I'm pretty sure this is one of the most commonly asked questions. Okay. One of the program modules used to calculate the employee's weekly bonus pay has been completed. The amount of bonus pay they receive is based on the number of hours worked and the value of sales made shown in the table. Test data. Easy peasy. Take two tests using valid data that can be used to test different. Okay. They said it must be valid data. So firstly, we're going to use test data that is actually correct, like basic test data. So hours worked must be, let's just say hours worked is 20. So it counts as here. And let's say that is the value of sales is 2,500. So bonus pay must be 0. Okay. And then we're going to say the second test, we're going to use boundary data. So it's between 1 and 40 inclusive. So we're going to say that 1 hour worked and above 2,000. So we're going to use 2,000 as another boundary. And we're going to use bonus pay as 50. So this is two types of test data. Okay. So one is basic one, the one that works. And one is, boundary data. Describe stub testing. Again, go over the marking scheme. Simple modules made to replace some other modules so that testing will be made easier. Easy rata, easy memorization. The program has been completed and compiled successfully. The program is tested using black box testing. Identify one type of error. Okay, now what was black box testing? Black box testing. It tests a module's inputs and outputs. Now, if you're messing around with the module's input or output, there could be a bunch of errors. Okay. Firstly, there could be a runtime error, which is basically that when you run the it makes an illegal operation. It makes like something like a division by 0, something that you didn't realize. It could also be a logical error. Your final answer is not the same as the code works, but your final answer is not the same as whatever answer you were supposed to get. So like for instance, the function was supposed to output 40, but you're getting 20. So it could be either one of those errors because you're working with the inputs and outputs. You're testing the inputs and outputs, right? So that's what black box is using. That's what black box detects. When you're putting an input, obviously you're going to be expecting something. If that something doesn't happen, that's going to be a logical error where it doesn't behave as expected, or maybe a runtime error where the error only shows up when the code is run, okay, where it performs an illegal operation. Okay, finally, a fun question. 8 marker. Pseudocode. Okay. An algorithm is designed to generate and output two unique random integers. Each integer value is between -10 and 10 inclusive. If both integers are negative, a third random integer between 30 and 35 inclusive will be generated and output. Okay. Now, what do you guys think is the most obvious thing that we have to do first? We're supposed to make two random integers between 10 and -10. Okay. We're supposed to make two random integers between 10 and -10. So we can say int1 is random. I think it was random, right? So, right. So rand 0 to, so it is rand, it's just rand, okay. Rand 10. So what this would do, where is it? Where is my pen? What this would do is that, oh my god, this pisses me off. This would give us a value from 0 to 10. Now there is a bunch of ways that you could make this from -10 to 10, but I'm just gonna do it like where is my, bro, this pisses me off so much. And we're also gonna define int2 for now. So oh my god, int2 is rand 10. Now it could be -10 or it could be +10, so we can make another. Okay, now wait. Oh, okay. What I was thinking of doing was to make another value. Yeah, that's what they did. Oh, it's exclusive. Yeah, that's what they did. What I was thinking was, okay, I would make a secondary value to determine if it should be negative or positive, but that works as well. You can do rand21, and then subtract. Oh, bro. And then just subtract from it. You can just subtract 10 from it. So if it gives like a value that is 10, that is less than 10, then it's gonna go into the negatives. You can do this. Okay, that's smart actually. Why didn't I think of that? But yeah, you can make two integers like that. Integer 2 is gonna be it's gonna be the same. Now, if both integer outputs are negative, a third integer will be generated in output. Okay. Blah 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 blah. First, we're gonna output these ones because they said that it's used to generate and output two unique random integers. Right, so we're gonna output these ones. Oh my god. Obviously, you can add statements. Don't do it as tough as I am right here. Okay, if both integer outputs are negative, so if int1 less than 0 and int2 less than 0, then we're gonna make another third integer, which is between 30 and 35. So int3 is gonna be rand 36 minus 30, and then we're gonna output int3, and then we're gonna do endif. I think that is all the questions asking. What the hell? Why is this 8 marks? What the heck? Between the -10 and 10, if both integers are negative, a third integer between. Is that it? Oh, it's unique. Oh shit! I did not read that. I did not read that. My bad. My bad. They said that it must be a unique. The numbers must be unique. So we're gonna keep on. We're gonna make some validation over here where we're gonna say that we're gonna repeat doing this. Oh my. Okay. We're gonna repeat whatever this is until. You know what? Fuck that. Do. Holy rich bit. Okay. So we're gonna repeat the input, the integer 1 and integer 2. So we're gonna repeat int1 is rand 21 minus 10, int2 is rand 21 minus 10 until int 1 is not equal to int 2. So they said that it must be two unique random integers, so they must not equate to each other. Then they said that if both integers are negative, again same thing. If int 1 less than 0 and int 2 less than 0, then we're going to generate a third integer, int 3. Output int 1, int 2. Int 3 is going to be a random integer from 36 minus 30, and we're going to output int 3. End of. I think I'm turning autistic a bit. I forgot how to use random. Wait, is it rand 6 plus 30, or I think they're both correct, right? I think they're both correct. If you do, yeah, you're supposed to add int, but wait, I think they're both correct. If you do int rand through 6 plus 30 and rand 36 minus 30, I think they're both correct. But yeah, you're supposed to add int, but yeah, it's just that. It's just first number, second number. They made it a bit easier by making them separate, but this would also work. And obviously, you want to add declarations. May God give you a question like this tomorrow. It's so simple. Then you have a flowchart. Let me just. Boop. I love flowcharts. Flowcharts are easy markers. So they said that the flowchart will input 100 integer values, one value at a time. So what we? Oh my God, that is a bold. How do I decrease the width, bro? Okay, you know what? Let's just make it bigger. Sure, that works. Okay, so it's gonna input 100 values. So obviously we're gonna use a method to make a count variable. So we're gonna set C to, ignore my very beautiful handwriting, 0 or 1. Let's just set it to 1, and we're gonna input numbers, right? Input num. Okay, but we're not gonna end the flowchart yet. We're gonna see what they want us to do with that number. Okay, so even if the logic is correct, the marking scheme didn't put the answer there. What do you mean by this? I don't understand your query. Okay, we're gonna input n, store the first value input into the first location of the array number, store the next input into the next unused location of the number array, output the contents of the number array in the opposite sequence to that in which the values were input. Okay, pretty simple. We're gonna store this set. Oh my God. We're gonna set a number at C to N. Okay, I'm just gonna make this larger as well. There we go. Okay, we're gonna set number at C to N, and then they said store the next input value. So we're gonna check if boop. We will check if the loop has hit. If the loop has hit, we're gonna set C to C plus 1. Set C to C plus 1, and then we're gonna check in a diamond box. Please do ignore my bad handwriting. If C is greater than or equal to 100, then we're gonna take it to the output sequence, yes, or else we're gonna take it back to the top. Okay, we're gonna take it back to the top. No, yes. Now they said that they want us to output it in the opposite sequence. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set a variable n to 100, and then we're just gonna count down. So we're gonna output. We're going to output whatever the value is at that index. Output numbers at n. Okay, and then we're going to increment n by 1. set n to n plus 1. And once that's done, we're gonna put another diamond there to check if n has hit 0. If it has, then we're going to end the loop. I hope that wasn't too confusing. After this, can you answer? Yeah, of course, I will. I hope that wasn't too confusing. My beautiful handwriting. But yeah, okay, state transition diagram. Okay, this is nice. Okay, this is another 8 marker. Okay. I'm gonna bring this over to the thingy so that it doesn't piss me off. Okay, there we go. Okay, so an automated digital camera system is used to take a sequence of photos of animals in a garden. During the design stage of the system, a state transition diagram is produced. The table details the states in the automated digital camera system along with the events which cause the system to change. The system starts in standby mode. The sequence of pictures is taken when in active mode. Okay. At the end of the sequence of pictures, the time is saved in a string in the format hour, hours, month, minute, minute, second, second. Okay. ठीक है. Each string is stored on a new line in the text file type taken. An algorithm is required to process the content of the text file time taken once it has been transferred to the computer. For each hour when the photos are taken, output a suitable message showing the hour and the total number of sequences of photos taken within that hour. For example, 15 pay 32 and 18 1. Okay. All right. So while reading this question, the thing that I understand, is that we're going to be given a text file and we have to read every single line of it. And we're going to need to parse that line. Okay? Now we're going to parse that line through string handling. They said that there's the string can be HH, SS. So in order to get out the R's, what can we do? We can take left. All right. In order to get out the minutes, we can take mid. In order to get out the seconds, we can take right. Okay. So that's pretty simple in order to separate them. And obviously, then you're gonna use string to num. Okay. So this is like the reason I said this is nice is because this is gonna be really simple to get marks in. Okay. So the only thing that I don't understand is how the total number of images are calculated. So let's read the original part again. In a garden, blah blah blah. The system starts in standby mode. The sequence of photos is taken when in active mode. Okay. Does it take a photo every 20 seconds? I think it takes a photo every 20 seconds because they said 20 seconds elapsed. I think it's every 20 seconds. What do you guys think? The time is saved as a format, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure it's every 20 seconds. If I look over to the wait, no, it's not 20 seconds. Oh, my bad. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. I'm stupid. Every time that it takes a photo, it's adding it to the file. So the number of lines would be the freaking image count. Holy shit, I'm stupid. I'm so stupid. Anyways, so let's begin with this question. Oh God. So firstly, like I said before, we're gonna open the file. Okay, so open file time taken .txt for read. I'm gonna make this a bit smaller. Okay, there we go. So open file time taken for read. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna run a loop while not end of file time taken .txt do and then end while. Okay. Now we're gonna store a line as the read file. So read file time taken .txt line. Sorry, I did a line thing. That's not the syntax. Okay. So read file line txt.txt. Now I want you guys to notice if I open up the marking scheme, open time for read, conditional loop till EOF, read it from the line. This is 3 marks right over here. The reason I said this is nice is because any file handling question is going to be the easiest 3 to 4 marks if you don't know it. Okay, but you should know it. Okay, but if you don't, just in case, then it's going to be the easiest marks of your life. Now, obviously, what we need to do is we need to extract the r's. So we're gonna do r's as left and whatever the line is and the 2, and then we're gonna convert this to num. So ours is gonna be string to num of ours, right? We're gonna convert this to an integer, and again extract ours from red, right? And you can see that they did left. Sure, that works. Sure, that works. We got another mark. Now we need to count the total number of hours per photo. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. One of the more complicated ways is done over here. Another way, I guess you could kind of like make an array and add it to the array. So like the reason, let me try to explain it to you guys. So what you could do is you could declare an array. Declare array. This is how I would do it in the question paper as well. You could declare an array of 1 through 24 because there's obviously 24 hours in a day. Of integer, you could initialize this array. Array at I is going to be 0, next I, and every time that you appear a photo, you could just do array at hours is equal to array at hours plus 1, and then I'm pretty sure that would do that. And when you're done with the file, you can calculate the count by going through each one of them. So you could calculate the count at the start as well. You could just say count is equal to 0 and count is equal to count plus 1, right? That way you count the total number of images. And when you're done with the entire thing, you can just go through it. So for x1 to 24, we're gonna output the message, output hour is equal to I is equal to, sorry, ampersand, we're gonna use an ampersand, my bad, and total is equal to whatever the value of the array is at that point. And yeah, you know what? I'm pretty sure that should be an acceptable answer. Like extract R, a comparison to compare current R extracted with the last one. Oh, am I missing something? Is it not just counting the R's? At the end of each sequence of pictures, the time is saved as a string in the format blah blah blah. An algorithm is required to process the content. For each R the picture is taken. Output a pseudo message showing the R and the total number of sequences of photos taken within that R. Am I missing something? It should be really simple. It should just be this. Why did they make it so overcomplicated? Yeah, no, that's what I'm thinking. Like, this is logically correct. Let me put this into Gemini real quick. Hold up. Gemini.google.com. Like, I know there are syntax errors, but I feel like this is logically correct. Ignoring syntax errors, does this algorithm work for this question? The worst part is they could probably cut a mark off of this and just be like, okay, oh, you didn't write it from the marking scheme, blah, 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 as if I'm supposed to predict your stupid ass examiners, stupid ass programming. I'm pretty sure this is a very logical. I'll ask a teacher afterwards. Oh, never mind. There it is. Ah, see, I knew I was right. Knew I was right. There it is. Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. You can do it as an array. Okay. Fuck. Oh yeah, obviously I made the mistake of not doing close file. Time take .txt. But yeah. Hell yeah. Okay, never mind. Cambridge isn't stupid. I was about to crash out. I was about to majorly crash out. But let's go, guys. They're not stupid. Hell yeah. Okay, let's look at the marks. So again, simple question. I hope you guys understand. Is there any questions about my logic? Any questions about my logic? Any questions about how many alternatives are there? I think there's just two. Yeah. You could do it through the complicated way, or you could do it through the simple way. Whenever they ask you to count a bunch of things, you should like think of it like you can make it like an array of multiple things. Whenever there's multiple things, you can always use an array. Keep that logic in mind. Whenever there's multiple things, you can always use an array. So based on the marking scheme, initialization of 20 elements set to 0, so it doesn't matter. You can do it from 1 to 24. You can do it from 1 to 23. So we got 1 mark through that. Open time and subsequently close, 1 mark for that. Conditional loop, 1 mark for that. Read a line, 1 mark for that. Extract R, 1 mark for that. Convert R to an integer, 1 mark for that. Increment appropriate, 1 mark for that. Output of each R corresponding to count variable, 1 mark for that. Okay. And I just realized that there was no reason to do this. Count was useless, so I'll just get rid of it. But yeah. Could you give me a logic? Yeah, guys. So it was really that simple. Like I said, and you can look here. It takes like 4 marks. I think these 5 marks. Anybody could have gotten these 6 marks. Anybody could have gotten. It's just a part of the last 2 marks. Let me see if there's any more stupid ass questions here. And I'll do the question that somebody asked, and then I'll give you guys the final tips for pseudocode, and we'll conclude the session there. If you have any questions, by the way, just like any question that you want me to solve and explain, just send it in the chat. I'm gonna scroll next time, bro. I'm generally gonna scroll next time. Ooh, let's go. Let's do this one. Let's do these. Let's do these. It's always complicated. Let's do these. Okay. The big ones, the big boys. Okay. Now, writing pseudocode for the question is, but the question where they asked us to make mid function using the left and right. What? If you can send it to me, that would be appreciated. But okay. Whenever you're dealing with the last question, it's always going to be around 16, 20-ish marks. So whenever you're dealing with the last question, it's very important that you know what the question even is. It's as important as you writing the pseudocode. If you don't understand what the question is saying, then you're not going to be able to write the pseudocode, and you're especially not going to be able to answer the final theory questions, the 4-mark theory questions, 4 mark theory questions that come at the end. So I would suggest giving like 5-6 minutes just reading and understanding the question and working around with drafts. Okay, so a program is being developed to implement a customer loyalty system for a scheme for a coffee shop. Each customer has a unique customer ID starting at 10,001, with this value increasing. By the way, my OBS is still recording, right? Okay, perfect. Yeah, okay. For example, the third customer who joins is given the customer ID 10,003. Okay, so we can tell by here that each customer is going to be starting at 10,001. Oh my god, why is this so fat? I'm going to make this larger a bit. It's going to be starting at 10,001, and it's going to be adding 1 for each customer. Okay, so that's basically what this part is. So like I said, every time that you're approaching these questions, you want to realize what the question is saying. Okay, you want to realize what each line of the question is implying. Like this line, it's implying that it's going to start at 10,001 and it's going to add 1. Okay, this line over here, the loyalty scheme is limited to 1,000 customers. It means that there is an array involved, and it's of the maximum, the upper bound of that array is 1000. That's why they told us it's of 1000 customers. Each line or each group of lines is going to imply something. You need to figure out what that something is. This one means that the maximum is going to be 1000 customers. A customer is awarded a loyalty point every time they buy a coffee. So this also implies something. I don't know the question, but I can already tell that there's an array being involved. The maximum limit of that array is 1000. The customer ID start in 10,001 and they increment by 1. And a loyalty point is awarded every time they buy a coffee. The programmer has decided to use a global 2D array loyalty of type integer. The array loyalty is made up of 1000 rows and 2 columns. Each row relates to one customer. Column 1 contains the unique customer ID and column 2 contains the number of loyalty points. Now, whenever they're talking about a 2D array, I would suggest that on the side, just draw it out a bit. So they're saying that there is a 2D array and it has what? 1000 rows, which is again the limit that they said, 1000 customers. And each one of them has 2 values. Okay? I'm just gonna add 2 arrays and then you can imagine the rest. Okay? Each one of them has 2 values. The ID and the number. Okay, the ID and the number. Right? They said column 1 contains the unique customer ID, which is this, and column 2 contains the number of loyalty points. So it's always nice to go line by line and you see what the question is implying, whatever line the line is implying. Rows in the array loyalty that are not currently being used have the value of column 1 sent to 999999999. Okay. If they're not being used, then ID is just gonna be 99999. Okay, so they're saying that the default value, this line is implying what? That the default value is 99999999999, and it's in ascending order. Okay, so you can already tell that there's gonna be 1000 rows. They're probably gonna ask us, and there's probably each one of them is gonna have the ID 10,001, and it's gonna go all the way to 11,000. Okay, and the ones that aren't being used is gonna be 99,999. Okay, now do we need to declare? Do we need to declare the array in the procedure / function if there's a global array already? It really depends on the question. Sometimes the array inside of the function is not exactly the same as the one outside, so you will need to declare it. Sometimes it is, so you can assume that it's declared. But then again, I don't think there is negative marking, so who cares? Called the parameter of type integer representing a customer ID. Okay, don't read the rest of the question, just read each one of the lines. Okay, so we're gonna make this function now. Oops, what the fuck? Okay, function, let me just, okay, that works. Okay, so they said that it's called with the parameter of type integer representing a customer ID. So I'm gonna say function find, I'm gonna make this a bit longer, wait, elongate. Okay, bruh, find customer, and it takes a parameter, right? So I'm just gonna call it ID. And is it a function or a procedure? It is a function, so it returns an integer. See, it says that right over here. Okay, and obviously returns integer and function. So you see how I realized that the first thing that I need to do was to make the function header and check if it's a function or a procedure, and I did that by reading the rest of the description. Now we're going to move on to the middle part. Searches for the loyalty array of this customer ID. Now we know that the ID is of the first column and we have 10,000 rows. So what are we going to do? We're going to go to each one of them 1,000 rows, and we're going to check to see if the first column is equal to our ID. So we're going to say for I 1 to 1000. Okay. Also, yeah, okay. For I 1 to 1000, we're going to check. Okay, we're going to check. I'll also just, what do you say? Right. So we're gonna make so you can read the rest of the question, by the way. The purpose of it is to return the loyalty points. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to define a loyalty points variable, and we're going to set it as 99999, right? Just as a default, okay? Because they said that if it's unused, then it's 99999. You can do it whatever, but this just makes it simpler. Why does it make it simpler? I'll show you guys in a while. Okay, so next I, right? Now we're gonna compare the first column to our ID, right? So we're gonna say if loyalty at I and 1, okay, so the first column is equal to ID, then loyalty points is loyalty at I colon 2, okay, and if. Pretty simple so far. The search will stop as soon as the customer ID is found. This statement is a bit of a pain in the ass, but we'll deal with this in a while. But any questions so far? Any questions so far? Okay. Now, the reason I set this to 9999999 is because if it's not found here either, then all it's gonna do is it's gonna set it to 99999. So might as well assume one value for loyalty points that are not found. Could breakpoint be used to stop? This is a question that I had really bad as well when I was giving my CAI, and I honestly never found out the answer to that. But I did hear from some teachers that what you can do is, what do you say? What you can do is you can set I to 1000 and that would break loop, but that isn't counted as a breakpoint. So don't take stupid risks and do what I'm about to do. So they said that it needs to break. So you can't break a for loop in pseudocode. Okay. So what you do instead is that you declare a found variable. Okay, and you're like found is equal to false. And you're going to declare a count variable, count is equal to 1. And now we're going to use a while loop inside. While count is less than 1000, less than or equal to 1000 and not found. And do, okay, and end while. All right, I'm just going to change this to I. So actually, let me just change this to count. Count and count. That is what we're going to do. Okay. Now let's look at our code. And what are we missing? We're missing returning. So what we're going to do is we're going to make an if statement. If loyalty points equal to 99999, then return -1. Else return loyalty points. End if. Now let's look at our question. This said count it with integer. We did that. So let's cross this out. Searches loyalty array for this customer. We did that. Cross this out. Search will stop as soon as it's found. We didn't do this. See, this is why you gotta recheck. This is why you gotta recheck. We didn't make it instantly stop. Why didn't we make it instantly stop? Because we never made found false. So found equal to true. So we never made found true. Right? Now we've done this. Now we've done this. Okay. So search should efficiently deal with the situation when customer ID is not stored in the array. Yup. Because then it's just gonna assume that it's 999999999, and if customer ID is found, then blah blah blah. I think we're also supposed to add a check to see if customer ID exists, because it should efficiently deal with the situation when customer ID is not stored. So what we can do is we can make a if statement. If ID is greater than 11,000 or ID is less than 10,001, then output ID not found, return -1 and if. Okay, because they said that it should efficiently deal with the situation. Let's check out the marking scheme now. Creates function header. Done. Check customer IDs in range, and if not, return -1. Yep, see, told you. If it's not in range, then we output it and we return -1. Yeah, done. Conditional loop iterating through each element in the array. Yup. check for current element to contain, if it does contain it, yup. If true, set value to terminate loop, yup. Terminating loop when customer ID is found, that happens. And terminating loop when customer ID is, okay, they did it through that, I did it through found, it's the same thing. And return either loyalty points for the customer and not found, yep. That is how we're going to do the A part of this question. Pretty nice. Yeah, okay. Then what we're gonna do is we're going to right. We're gonna move on to the next part, which is, where is the next part? How much is this? This is also, this is 7 marks. Okay, pretty easy. Okay. Okay, let's do this. A customer can claim a free coffee for every 11 loyalty points. The programmer has defined the second program module, points report. Output the customer ID for each customer who has 11 or 10 more loyalty points. Output the average loyalty points for all the customers in the array. Simple. Read the question and you're instantly thinking average. Okay, we've already done average. That means we need the total amount of points, we need the total amount of customers, and what do you say? Output the customer ID for each customer who has 11 or more loyalty points. We're just gonna go through the array. We're gonna count the total number of loyalty points. We're gonna count. We're gonna see if it's greater than 11. If it is, then we're just gonna output. This is the most easy piece of code that you'll ever write. Function, points report, or actually it's a procedure. My bad, procedure, because we're not returning anything. Points report and procedure. We're gonna loop through the array for I1 to 10,000. Sorry, 1,000, and we're gonna make a total variable. Okay, total variable next I. We're gonna see if loyalty at I comma 2 is greater than 11, greater than or equal to 11, then output loyalty I comma 1. We're gonna output the ID, end if, and then we're gonna add the total. Okay, total is equal to loyalty I2, because again, look at the visualization that you made. The number of loyalty points is on the second one and the ID is on the first one. Okay, so total is loyalty. All right, and then what you're gonna do is for all. So we're gonna calculate the average then. So average is gonna be total over 1,000, because there's 1,000 customers. Nah, you know they're sneaky. You know they're sneaky. Remember what they said? They said that if they don't have a loyalty, if the customer doesn't exist, then the default value is 99999. So that's gonna be added to our thingy anyway. But we have to deal with that. Remember, they said that it's the default value is 99999. We don't want that to be added, right? Because that customer doesn't exist. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna add a condition here. All right, we're gonna say if loyalty I2 is not equal to 99999, then we're gonna add it. All right, because they said that that is the default value. We don't want that to interfere with our total. And if they're sneaky as fuck. And then obviously we're gonna output average is average. You can declare the variables, declare total, integer, declare average, real. But yes, that is the question. They're so sneaky, bro. They thought they could get me. Fuck them, bro. But yes, create function header, done. Check customer IDs within. Oh, this is a different one. My bad. Create function header. Create procedure header. Declare. Yep, see guys, declaration is important. Oh, wait. My bad. I forgot to realize that the 1,000 customers aren't real, so we have to make a count as well. So count is equal to 0, and we're gonna only count the customer if they have loyalty points. So count plus 1. So it's gonna be count total divided by count. Okay, yeah. Declare and count. ठीक है. Loop through all the elements and check if loyalty points is greater than equal to. If true, output. Some points and increment count. Calculate an output. Okay. This is 8 marks. I hope you guys understand. When do we use while or for loop? I'm confused. I must always use this for loop. You use a for loop when you wanna go from a certain point to a certain point, a certain number to a certain number, from a start bound to an end bound, and you don't have to break the loop. For instance, if they hadn't put this condition over here, where did it go? If they hadn't given us this condition that the search will stop as soon as the customer ID is found, we would have used a for loop. Easy peasy. But they did give us that condition. Okay, every time that you see a condition in the question, know that it's a while or repeat loop. Can we use cast our examiners? No, that won't work out. That won't work out well. So every time that they mention a condition, okay, they're like, the search will stop, or the loop will terminate, the loop will blah 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 blah. Every time they say some condition, then you have to use while or you have to use repeat. But yeah, any queries with this question? This was an easy question overall. Uh, and then you obviously have the last part, which is theory. It decides to amend the ID, blah blah blah. Okay. By the way, the method you said to make index, the problem with that method is that I asked two of my teachers. One of them said that it would, one of them said that it wouldn't. So what I would suggest is that don't use that. If there is an option to use the while loop, don't use that. So just don't go casually using that. Just use the while loop. Okay. But like if somehow they're like you can't use a while loop, then you might use that. But that's like the last case scenario. That's like a very hard scenario. Else just go with a while loop. Okay. If they gave you a condition, just go with a while loop. And the question that somebody was saying is no. Write efficient pseudocode doesn't mean while loop. Can you convince me linked lists are useful in practicality? All right, I'll convince you linked lists are useful in practicality. You have a linked list like this, which has a pointer to another linked list, which is a pointer to another linked list, which is a pointer to another linked list, blah, blah, blah. You want to get rid of this? Boop. You want to add one? Boop. Really simple to add and remove one. Pretty simple. The reason they're important is because they're used in our everyday technology. I'm pretty sure cars use them. I'm pretty sure Discord uses them. Like if you just Google linked list uses, you're gonna see like, oh, somebody literally asked this shit. When you need to insert in the middle of your collection, okay? When you need to insert a car in the middle of traffic, bullshit. The evolution of systems to being so cache dependent is a big factor. Linked lists make a lot of sense on machines where memory is very scarce and there was little or no memory cache. Say to somebody in 1987 running a 68,020 based workstation that we're going to allocate just a bit more memory from heap than we need, just in case. And if that turns out not to be enough, we're going to allocate more memory and memsify the entire thing. Then they'd be very happy. But on a modern system where the RAM is plentiful but cache is missing are expensive, blah, 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 blah. So vector mix. Okay. It's because of RAM. Fuck that, bro. Anyways, let's do this question. Which one was it? May, June 2022, question 7. May, June 2022, P22, question 7. So this is going to be the last question and then we're going to be done. Bruh. Why can my browser not just assume I'm typing CS? Pisses me off. Question 7. Okay. Habibi, don't you miss me? Blah. Okay. By the way, if you have any questions, please ping me and send it. Okay. please ping me and send it. Wait, can it be 4b instead then? What do you mean 4b? Okay, guys, if you have any questions that are from the past papers, ping me and send them to me. A programming language has string functions equivalent to those given in the insert. The language includes a left and right, but it does not have a mid function. Write pseudocode for an algorithm to implement your own version of the mid function, which will operate in the same way that is shown in the insert. In order to understand this question, we need to realize how a mid function works. So let's just say that we have this. Okay, so we have this. Now, when we're talking, let's add another character. When we're talking about mid, from let's just say 2 to 3, it gives us this value, right? So mid S 2 to 4, 2 to gives us this value. Okay, because it starts at 2 and then goes 2 positions. Now, another way to do this would have been to take the string and then just subtract the right and the left. Okay? Or this is a bit of a brain trickery. This is a big brain trickery. Okay. What we could have done is that we could have taken the left of the function, and then from that left we could have taken the right of that function. Do you understand what I'm saying? This is a wrong paper. Okay, we'll do both of them. Look. If we just want this part of the string, we can take the left till that point, right? We can take the left till this point. Okay, and then we can do right. Yeah, exactly. Or we can do vice versa. We can take right till this point, and then we can take the left till this point. Do you guys understand this? This is a basic thing. We're gonna take it from the right to left or left to right. I'm gonna take it from the left to right. Okay, so we can take left till this point, and then right to this point. And you can see that no matter how big the string is, E, F, let's just add an F as well. Okay, let's just add an F as well, and we need like let's say we need we don't need this part, we need this part. So again, we can take the left and we can just take the right. Now let me add both cases. So in this case, what we would do normally is we would where's my thingy? We would do mid 4 2. I think it's mid 4 2, right? It's mid 4 2, it's mid 4 1. I'm unsure if it's inclusive or exclusive. Wait, this is why the insert is so useful. Mid. Okay, yeah, it's gonna be 2. Okay, yep. So in this case, we would do mid 4 2. In that case, let's also draw that case so that we get like a better understanding of that. Okay, so in this case where there is this and we need like oops, I did it again. And we need like this part. We can do this and then this. And in this scenario, we're going to take mid string 4 3. Yeah. Now I want you guys to notice something. When we're doing this, we're taking the left of 5, the first 5, and here we're taking the left of the first 4. So, and here we're gonna then do, what do you say? We're gonna do taking the right of the first 2, and here we're taking the right of the first 3. You guys see this pattern? I'm gonna make another one. I'm gonna make another one. Let's make another one of this. Okay. And let's say that this time I want, let's say this time I want these 2. So then the mid function for this would be mid string 2 2, right? Yeah. So this time you can see that we're gonna take the left till this point, which is 3, and then we're going to bring it from here, which is 2. So do you guys notice a pattern? We're always taking left of the second integer plus 1. So if we have a function mid, where it's string n and like let's just call another number d. Then what we're doing is that we're taking left with characters n plus 1. So like for instance, here it was 4 and we took the first 5. Here it was 4, we took the first oh shit, this should be 2. Wait. Hold up. Yeah, no, my bad. This should be 2. Okay, wait, there's a different pattern here. I think it's the sum minus 1. No, wait. Yeah, I think it is the sum minus 1. It's basically we're taking the left of n plus d minus 1. So like for instance, here we add this, so we get 6. 6 minus 1 is 5. Here it's 2 plus 3, 5 minus 1 is going to be 4. Here it's 2 plus 2 minus 1, 3. Okay, so we can say that it's n plus d minus 1. And then we're going to take the right of just d. Right, because here d is 2 and we're going to do that. Do you guys understand this part? How we recognize a pattern here? A lot of the times when you're doing pseudocode questions that are conceptual like this, it's nice to draw out a few test cases just like I did, and then try to recognize a pattern, right? And then the function for mid would be function mid. We're gonna take string n integer, or well, start integer, length integer, returns string, right? Let's just oops. Right now we just determined that we have to take the left of that, so oops, let me just make this a bit smaller. We just determined that we have to take the left of n plus d minus 1, so we're gonna say that end function we're gonna say that string 1 is gonna be left of string n plus d minus 1, and then string 2, which is going to be our final string, would be right of string into d, and then we're just going to return string 2. We just made a pattern and we wrote the code for it. Let me pull up the marking scheme for this. Yep, so you can see they did start plus number minus 1, and then they did right. Yep. And obviously, if you were to do this through the right way, then you would do the complete opposite. Okay, so I hope this clears it out a bit. Is anybody confused at this? I know my explanation may have been a bit weird because I messed it up in between, but anybody confused on this? A lot of the times you need to draw out the entire thing and then you would see where the pattern is. Okay, so for instance, I drew this out. I realized that, oh, this is a pattern, and then I did it accordingly. It's just math. Are there any other questions? Any questions about this, or should we move on to the conclusion of the session? What tips would you give for solving any pseudocode problems? Yeah, I'm gonna get into that. That's the final part. Can we use this in a customer point question instead of file? No. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. When the break isn't explicitly mentioned in the pseudocode guide. Breaking a loop, it isn't explicitly mentioned in the pseudocode guide. So if you do break, you're gonna be instantly mark cut. The thing that I was talking about, setting I as the maximum value, some teachers say that's acceptable, some teachers say that it is unacceptable. It's not mentioned in the pseudocode guide, but it's also a very logical thing. So we don't have any confirmation of that, nor have I ever seen an answer script that has been accepted with that, nor have I seen an answer script that was rejected with that. So that's what I was talking about. So no, if they tell you to break the loop, just use a while loop. If you break the loop, what happens? Breaking a loop basically means that the loop instantly stops at that point, but breaking a for loop isn't in our syllabus. No, it's not in the pseudocode guide. That's what breaking a loop means. What is pseudocode? I'm gonna ask Pseudocode Pro after this. What does this do? This does absolutely nothing. Please explain. Pseudocode is okay. He explained it. All right. Our Cambridge has their own syntax for it. Yeah, it is pretty stupid. But yes, guys, I will upload the notes and the recording, inshallah tonight. I don't think there was any mod here. What is breaking a loop? Breaking a loop means to instantaneously stop a loop whenever a condition is met. What's your YouTube? I don't have a YouTube. It's gonna be on the r/IGCSE YouTube channel, or I'm gonna, what do you call it? I'm gonna send a a loop is when you rerun a bunch of code a certain amount of times based on a condition or count. So like if you wanna run a code, execute a code based on a condition, like if this is true, then you could use a while or repeat loop. Or if you want to run a code for X amount of times, then you could do for X is 1 to X. Sorry, for I is 1 to X, and then run that code. Oh, insane. Okay, I think that's about it. And we're gonna conclude the crossover session right over there. No other questions. Nobody sent me any questions, so I'm gonna conclude it over there. Now on to the important part, attempting the paper. I'm gonna give you guys a few general tips as well as pseudocode related tips. Now, I hope you guys remember how I attempted the line by line interpretation of the last question. It's very important that you know what the question is asking. Every single question in Cambridge, every line in it matters for a reason. You just need to be able to understand it. Like in the last question, when I was attempting that weird loyalty points one, you saw how I went to each line and I was checking out what it implied. I made visualizations. You need to make visualizations. If they give you a 2D array, make visualizations. If they give you a 1D array, make visualizations. If they give you a record, make visualizations. Check what they're asking. Visualize it. Make a drawing. It doesn't matter. You will have time. Trust me, you will have time. Make a drawing. Don't spend like 30 minutes perfecting the drawing. It takes like barely 30 seconds to make a drawing. Okay? Make it so that you can actually visualize it as you go. Then, generally for the paper 2 attemption, I would suggest leave the pseudocode questions for last, because pseudocode question, I would suggest that you go into the paper with mind filled with theory, P2 theory, that you've memorized. Go into the session with P2 theory that you have memorized, and make sure to write down whatever you memorized first so that you don't forget it, and then move on to the pseudocode. Pseudocode is conceptual. You can do it anytime. Theory, however, you will forget. Just like how you may have noticed during the recording, I forgot a lot of theory because I haven't done that shit since October. So theory you'll eventually forget, especially during the paper, you're going to be burdened. So might as well just write down the theory first. Write down the definitions, theory, PDLC, all of that. Then do the structure diagrams, state transition diagrams, the non-pseudocode stuff that is conceptual, and then do the pseudocode stuff. Now, another thing I would suggest is that when you're done writing your pseudocode, and you have time, like let's just say that you're done with the whole paper and you have time, then what you're gonna do is that you're gonna trace table. You're gonna trace your pseudocodes. You're gonna make sure that it works nice for algorithms. You're gonna test it. You can test it in your head. You can ask for an extra sheet, and you can make a genuine trace table on it. You just need to see if your code works. You just need to see if your code works. And remember, if you ask for extra sheets, you want to cross it out. Make sure to ask your invigilator. Blah blah blah. You know, the general Cambridge stuff. So line by line interpretation of pseudocode, trace tabling if you have time. And another thing that I would suggest, but it doesn't really matter, is that doing pseudocode roughly on an answer sheet before you put it on there. But it doesn't matter because if you just do it wrong on there, then it doesn't matter. The reason I say do it on an answer sheet is because people often leave things like declaration for last. So on an answer sheet, you could just add that instantly with ease. That's why I said that. Uh, but yes, those are the general tips for pseudocode. Make sure to do for the last question, just like how you crossed out, just like how I lined out every single requirement. Make sure that you do that as well to make sure that you're meeting every single requirement. And yes, that is, yeah, leave a few blank lines for declaration. Yeah, why cross out notes? I just meant like for you to recheck. You don't need to cross it out. Just like recheck, like make sure that you're meeting every condition. That's what I meant. So like don't actually like don't think that I'm telling you to cross it out. I'm like look at my screen, look at my screen. I meant like every time that you meet a condition, every time that your code fulfills a condition, just like add a tick that you fulfilled this condition. You want to make sure that you're fulfilling all conditions. That's what I meant. Can we do declaration one line? No, you can't, because like what if there's multiple data types? What if there's integer, real, boolean? Then you have to make it on different lines. So like I would say leave 3 to 4 lines. It doesn't matter. You can always ask for an extra sheet. How to make pseudocode efficient? Get good. That works. That works. That is on single line. But I'm talking like if you have a real as well, then what are you gonna do? You're gonna do declare int one, int two integer, and then you're gonna do declare real one as real. Okay, on a separate line. You can't use this different data types on the same line. That you can do. Same data type, yes, you can do it on the same line. So, okay, any more questions? The recording will be live soon, hopefully tonight. Any tips for questions that ask for non-pseudocode explanation? Okay, so this one I can't really answer because I myself got that wrong, but you just have to trust your gut and intuition and that's just practice. That's just practice. If you practice hard, like if you do a lot of, I think stepwise refinement, that's what that's called. Do a lot of stepwise refinement questions. Like it doesn't take a lot. It would take like 5 minutes per question, but like do 10 of them. You'll realize the syntax. You'll realize it. Your life rage baiting. I couldn't hear your answer for this. Okay. Uh, Hadius, look at my screen. Look at my screen. What I meant was that if you have like this, all I'm saying is okay, every time that your code fulfills one of these requirements, just add a tick to it. That's what I meant. I didn't mean literally cross out the nodes. I just meant okay, add a tick to it. Okay, you've done this just so you can recheck just so you can recheck after you've written it, just to make sure that. Yeah. Then what do you mean? What is carboxyl? Oh, you meant that? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me show you. Let me show you. Okay, look at my screen. I'll show you. I'll show you. I'll show you. Oops. Fucking hell. So look over here. This is what I mean by crossing out. I would suggest that you cross out so that they don't actually consider your rough work as part of your neat work. That's what I meant. Huh? If it's like actual genuine work, like for instance here, yeah. Like for instance, here I had actual genuine work, then obviously you're not gonna cross that out. Okay, you obviously won't cross that out if it's actual genuine work. But if it's not genuine work, if it's rough work, then cross it out so that they don't actually consider it as your final freaking answer. Yeah, exactly. Literally just this. Just add a cross. Just cross it. Just cross. They don't know, nah. They don't know. Maybe they think it's real. They're stupid. They are. But yeah, just make sure that you're crossing out your rough work, and if it's neat work, then obviously you're not gonna cross that out. All right. Any other questions, guys? Any tip for flowchart diagrams? Yes. Step by step. They're gonna always be like, oh, input 100 numbers, input this, input that. You just follow it in a sequence, the same sequence I told you. Mostly following the sequence would get it. The rest is just practice. Do 10 questions of flowchart. It won't take that long. It will take like maximum 3-5 minutes per question. Do 10 of them. You have tonight, you have tomorrow. Yeah. Give bro his shout out. Nah, this guy is my real life best friend, so he's just annoying me. I'm not gonna do anything to him. Fuck him. I would ban him if I could. Can you explain linked list and what type of questions they'd have about it? Linked lists basically includes a bunch of nodes. Okay. It includes a bunch of nodes. Each one of those nodes have a pointer node which points to another node. Okay. Now the questions on linked list would be. Let me give you a visualization. Hold on. A linked list. Where is my obsidian? This is what a linked list looks like. You have one node, and then you have another node. You also have null nodes, which are represented by like a phi, I think. And these point to another node and blah blah blah. Now, linked list basically nodes in linked list consist of two data. There's the data and then there's the pointer node. Do we have methods in pseudocode? Yes. Um, Pointer node and then there's the data. Linked list questions often look like you need to draw a new linked list with the node part of it. So they're gonna be like, oh, add a new node to it. So you're gonna add a node to it, okay? Or they're gonna be like, this node has been removed. Calculate the new node this would point to, and blah blah blah. That's basically what the questions on linked list are. Again, just refer to topicals. You're gonna see. They could also ask you to convert pseudocode or to explain pseudocode, or they could give you something like a flowchart and tell you to make that into pseudocode, something like that. But that's gonna be simple. They're not gonna. I don't think they're gonna ask you to make linked list from scratch in P2. Do we have methods in pseudocode? Methods in pseudocode basically means I think you mean classes, and technically yes. Do we have to memorize how to write bubble sort? Just understand the concept. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. It's not that hard. All right. I think that's it from my side as well. Good luck for you guys' paper. And anytime that you have a question, feel free to DM me. I may not reply instantly, but I will eventually reply. Any question or ping me in the channels. Have a nice rest of your day. Bye bye.